Just because of the 3 thing and never winning a 4, I am going to go Arsenal to win the league.
Whoa.
Jumped this plane, gone to America. Now, I don't know anything about managing West Ham, but I'm here.
It's like Gary at Valencia,
Oh, here we go! Oh, I've stayed away from Love Island for years.
Somebody suggested that the jury was out.
I think
the jury's not out.
Adam said it was
verdict's in. Verdict's in. He's
I'm really, really worried, I'm going to be honest.
You haven't even started yet.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Sit down here. On the couch.
Hello and welcome to the Overlap Live fan debate brought to you by Sky Bet. With the new season just days away, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by fans from up and down the country. And helping us decipher and break down the brand new season is the one and only Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. Good to see you. Boys, I have to say, you're both glowing. You've enjoyed your mini retirements.
I got back this morning.
Hard life.
It wasn't pleasant at Malaga Airport at 6:40.
So I'm sure you've been keeping abreast of all the games, everything that's been going on in pre-season.
I watched Salford Saturday and I watched United Saturday, which was interesting. I didn't see the game yesterday.
All right, so I'll come
just
straight
getting
to
that in
Jamie
there,
on
isn't
that. Yeah, I know you were going to throw him under the bus. Now, we've got to start with last season's treble winners, Manchester City. You said on this show many times that you didn't want them to win the treble.
No.
Has it sunk in? How much did it hurt? And have you got over it?
No, I don't. I mean, I think once I went to the cup final, I think once that was over, I felt as though they would do it. Although I thought Inter Milan in the Champions League final did really well. But look, it doesn't surprise me with what Pep Guardiola's achieved during his managerial career that he's gone and done it. I think that it was going to be him if anybody was going to do it, and they're an exceptional team. And we'll see how they react this season. We won the league the year after the treble, but there was a dip. There was an expectation that we felt as though we probably could go and win the Champions League again, and couldn't get to those heights for quite a good few years. So it'll be interesting to see how they do take on this year. And the transfer window's been okay for them. I don't know why they lost Mahrez, but we'll see what happens and whether they can sort of, if you like, climb that mountain like they've done and then go again this year.
We're going to come on to that Mahrez situation in just a little bit. We've got to talk about the Charity Shield, or as Arsenal fans believe, it's basically the Champions League final for us. What do you make of the Charity Shield game? Obviously, Arsenal won on penalties. It was deflected goal in the 110th minute. How important are they? You've both played in them. Do they matter for the rest of the season?
Listen, I think City have lost it 3 times. I don't know if it's 3 times in a row or the last 3 times they've lost it. They've gone on to win the league. So that's the most important thing. It's definitely more important now. And the reason I say that is because I think it's foreign managers. Because when I was growing up as a kid or, watching games, no one was really interested in the Charity Shield. But when Gerard Houllier came to Liverpool, for him it was a trophy. And he built it up within sort of the dressing room. Mourinho was the same. It seems like Pep's the same, Mikel Arteta. And I think it's that. I think still being English, growing up with the Charity Shield, it's still a friendly. But for other people around the world, when these play their similar sort of games, I think it's called the Super Cup in Spain. It was normally Barcelona, Real Madrid. It was a massive game. I remember Mourinho and sort of Pep Guardiola going for it and the players going at each other over there. But in my eyes, it's not a trophy. But what I do think it means to me is that the mentality of the managers going into their players, that every game matters, every trophy you go for, you want to win. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think there's any correlation at all between winning that game and then what happens during the season. I mean, the year we won the treble, I think we lost to Arsenal, was it 3 or 4? What? I can't remember what it was. We got battered anyway. So I don't think it matters in terms of what's going to happen for the rest of the season, but I think it's a really... Our boss used to say it's the best pre-season friendly you can ever play.
Yeah.
In terms of preparation for the start of the season. That's the way he used to put it. And he used to say something else at half-time and regularly in this game. You may as well go and lift the trophy as not. So it was never a massive, you have to win it and there's massive pressure on it. But you may as well win it if you're there. You may as well be the ones that go up and lift it. So for Arsenal yesterday, it's a good moment, but nothing more than that, really.
Taking a bit of shine off it, Pippa.
I thought it was quite respectful.
I agree, though. Obviously, it's a good day out. It was a perfect Sunday out. But, more importantly, it's what happens in the league. Yeah. I feel like it's a mental barrier for Arsenal to finally beat City. And that gives them the confidence to go into the season. But other than that, it's just a good day out. And a trophy, of course.
Now, we saw the implementation of some new rules. I know you love all the new rules that come in. Arsenal scored in the 110th minute of the game. Added time. It's been put in to eliminate time wasting. Varane's come out and panned it, said that the FA they've just basically taken the players to a rules meeting and told them it's happening. He says it's not going to help. Already played, like people complain about congestion of fixtures, too many games. What do you make of it?
I thought Varane's tweet that he sent this morning was quite damning, because it was a very calm, sort of calculated, measured analysis of the situation. And I didn't watch the game yesterday, but I watched Salford on Saturday, and I'm coming from an owner's point of view on Saturday. We won 2-0, so I'm not an angry owner on Saturday. I'm absolutely delighted. There were 9 minutes of added time at the end of the game, which I couldn't believe. I thought it was probably about 4 or 5, maybe 6. But it wasn't just that. They played 3 minutes added time on the 9 and ended up playing 12.
Yeah.
And we're going to see Howard Webb tomorrow, aren't we? We're doing a piece for the new rules before the Friday night football. And it's not right. On Saturday, on our sort of group text that we have with the lads, 2 of them were at the game, 2 of them watching on the link along with me. And all of us were on, what's going on here? This is not right. Forget them, we were winning 2-0, so we weren't panicking or anything like that, thinking we're going to lose the game. I think there will be massive problems with it. I mean, Pep's obviously reacted after the game, which you would expect. But I think Varane's was a very, very calm, measured put down of this sort of application of it, and I think they'll change it very quickly.
What they've done the first week, it's not just for time wasting, so it's almost, when a goal goes in, I'm stopping it until it starts again. The same with substitutions. So they're not time-wasting situations, but in the past, I think a substitution would just be 30 seconds and we get on with the game, whereas they're actually doing it on the clock. And that's, I think, is adding to basically the time-wasting issues that you've got. The big thing for me is the time-wasting. You're right. It's a lot of the time, who gets booked for time-wasting? It's always a goalkeeper. Can
we have a show of hands here on this? Because does anybody think watching football last season in the Premier League, if you all were watching Premier League or some in the Championship, obviously, did anybody else think that they were being shortchanged at the end of a game?
I think when you play certain clubs...
Hands up if you thought you were being shortchanged. That's 4 out of
There's so many times
20.
where you see games, and let's say there's 5 minutes added on at the end. Someone goes down in the 90th minute, and it's still played to the 95th minute, even though like 2-3 minutes of that game's been wasted. You're chasing a result.
Yeah,
it is frustrating when that happens. And they do need to address, like Jamie says, like maybe not go over the top with 15 minutes added on and all that, but when time's wasted, you need to add it on. There's so many teams that just go down, roll around, waste more time, make a substitute in the extra time, and it's never addressed.
It's some of the biggest clubs that are worried about short change, and some of the the lesser clubs.
You would have done
I wasn't worried. We scored so many goals in the last minute. I didn't need any more minutes. But
it was 4 hands that out of about 15 or 20 people that were worried about it.
Because it's the Gary Neville podcast, and they're all terrified.
We went out to the fans as part of the Sky Bet Fan Hope survey and basically worked out, or got a reading of who they think is going to win the league. And the results are interesting, some of them. 3% went for Man United. Yeah, I think you were probably one of 5 people.
3%.
3%.
That's
one
quite
of about 5 people that voted. 5% said Liverpool, 12% said Arsenal, and a massive 74% went for Man City. Now, Jamie, no English club has ever won it 4 times in a row. Is it possible? Is it going to become like the Bundesliga where Bayern 11 years on the bounce?
Well, we've had it in the past where Gary, I think, won it 3 times. I think Liverpool in the early 80s won it 3 times. And this Man City team are the equal. We can have that debate who's the best team. But in terms, they've now got that European Cup. And they are one of the great teams that we've ever seen in this country. And I don't know what it is about winning it for the 4th time, because it doesn't happen that often. Sometimes there's a team who comes from nowhere, and I do think with City the only thing that can stop them is that they're involved in other stuff. Like going away to that World Club Championship. Could that have an effect? We've both done that. You come back, maybe you're a couple of games behind someone, but when I looked at City yesterday as well, and I think there's been a myth around City for a long time that they've got this massive squad. They've never had a massive squad, City. They've always had 15 or 16 players who are like top class, who like 4 or 5 would come in and it'd be no difference. But they've always got 2 or 3 kids on the bench, even last season. We see Cole Palmer come on yesterday and get the goal. So there's always been a bit of a myth about the numbers in the squad. And if they had a bit of bad luck with injuries, one of the big players were out, how would they cope with that? You know, if Arsenal look a lot stronger, Chelsea and Liverpool look stronger, you know, everyone looks stronger. But, I mean, it's Pep Guardiola, he's set the bar that high, and his teams never normally get lower than sort of 90 points, even though I think they won it with 89 last season. But I just think it's a big ask for anyone.
I don't think Arsenal could have done any more to close the gap. They've shown real intent, you know, with the signings that they've made. My concern is they're the only team that I look at and think that actually could win the league. They obviously fell short last season, but with the 3 signings they've made, they're going to be better. I look at the other teams and think, who is going to be better than last season? Chelsea will be naturally better because of the fact the managers come in.
Couldn't get any worse.
They've refined the squad and they couldn't get any worse. So they're going to be better just naturally. I don't look at Liverpool at the moment and think, wow, they're going to be like, you know, they're going to be challenging City for the league or Arsenal for the league. I don't look at United with what they've done so far. So unless United, Chelsea, Liverpool do something miraculous in this next few weeks in the transfer window, Arsenal for me are the only team that I think can challenge City at this moment in time, and I think they could get very close to them, but I still would go City just, but I won't go as strong as that 70% to 13. I think it's a lot closer than that personally this year. I think that Arsenal will have the bit right between the teeth, and they've got 3 good signings.
Big Steve, welcome.
Thank you.
To the overlap. Mr. Man sitting up. We've spoken about having those 16, 17 top quality players, but you've lost Mahrez, I think second most assists for you last season. Vardyol's come in. Are you happy with what's going on? Because you also lost Gundogan as well.
You've always got to be happy when you win a treble. So, yeah, I am happy. Gundogan and Mahrez, when you look at the goals and assists them two bring, obviously Kovacic just came in there. He's not going to hit them kind of numbers, he's a different player. I'm looking at Phil Foden to come in the middle. I think we've seen it last season.
Didn't start yesterday?
No, he didn't. He looked good when he come on, though. I think Phil can hit the Gundogan numbers in the middle. The wide side where Riyad was, I think we need somebody. Guardiola's coming in. I know Pep plays this back 4 now with centre-backs across the back. I think he's a great signing. But I think the big worry for Manchester City is what Gary was saying, a drop-off. You know, when you win a treble, you know, for us fans, it was like a relief. It was like we've finally got the Champions League, we've won a treble. And then you look at a few players and you think, are they going to maybe think, you know, that's a bit different, I've done it now, we've won a treble. I don't think Pep Guardiola will allow that. I don't think his standards will let that drop. I think he's bringing in Guardiola's a young signing. I think he might be one to replace Laporte. I think Kovacic has got the experience. We forget about Real Madrid days and things like that. I think he looks like he's played for City for a while, you know what I mean? He's come in, I think he's overtook Calvin Phillips already. You know, he's coming in. And I think we need one more signing. But for me, I think a lot of City fans talking to him, we're not going to panic. If we usually start the season a bit up and down. We don't usually go and win 10 games at the beginning. It's the business end of the season when Manchester City get going. That's when the mentality kicks in and Pep sort of does his magic. But I'm just ready for the season. I'm hoping Pep can G him up. You don't want to lose any game, and we lost yesterday on penalties. But overall, looking at the transfers he's brought in and that, when you've won a treble, you don't need 5 or 6 players. You just need 1 or 2 tweaks. And I think we're the team to beat, but everybody else around us is getting better. Arsenal, like you say, I think Manchester United have got a lot better. The goalkeeping situation, I think, improves them. Chelsea, you know what I mean? So everyone's after us. We're on top of the mountain and everyone's trying to knock us off. So, I'm ready for it.
Do you believe that Arsenal are your main competition? Do you believe they're the closest to you?
I've tipped Liverpool, and I know, and people were laughing at me in that, only because of a mentality point of view near the end. We've been toe-to-toe with Liverpool a few times, and it ain't enjoyable for me or him.
That's miserable. Every
game you go to, you've got to win. If you don't win, you don't enjoy it. It's like relief. Yeah, we've won. How's Liverpool got on? They've won. Oh, God, we go again. And I think that's where Arsenal fell short at the end of the season. I think City cranked it up that much. I think some of their players didn't really fancy it. They panicked in games. We're 2-0 up. Oh, they've got back in it. What do we do now? Right, we chase the game. Then they get caught. We go 2-0 down at the Etihad. The City fans, they sort of relax a little bit. We know, we trust the manager. But Liverpool, when they get going at Anfield as well and they start on that run, I think they're the only team that are capable of going 10-11 near the end of the season.
Are you going to lose Kyle Walker as well, potentially?
Well, I was there.
That'd be a massive loss then.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a very, very strong possibility. Pep took him out the other night. There was photographs of just him and Pep dining in Manchester, and it looked like they were having a bit of a heart-to-heart. So And I was speaking to some people at City at weekend who were in and around the club, and they said Kyle's massive off the pitch as well, you know. And I mean, this could be one of them things. I've done it now at Manchester City. I've won the league. I've won the treble. I want to try something different.
They can't let him go.
They can't let him go.
Absolutely.
If him, Gundogan and Mahrez go, that's a massive hole, that.
And that's and then they're talking about Bernardo, which I've been told he's not going to go. I mean, and we've got a month, but I don't think Pep wants to lose him. I think we do need somebody on the right. Cole Palmer came on yesterday. He's a young kid, but over a full season, you can't rely on Cole.
Why does Foden not just play on the right hand side off his left foot?
Well, we against United last season at home, it was Foden on that side and Grealish on the other side, outstanding. But he's playing him more central, I think. I think last season, as De Bruyne...
Something's not right. I was speaking about this watching the game yesterday about Foden. He's not young anymore, is he? What is he, 23 now? Is he 20?
Is that not young anymore?
No, but what I'm saying is, 3 or 4 years ago, we were saying this is going to be like the best English player. And it almost feels like Bellingham's become that player where he's the one we build the England team around. And Foden can't quite get in the England team. He can't quite get in the City team. He made the goal yesterday. That turn he did on the arc was unbelievable.
I don't think he can...
But you go to I was thinking Gundogan's left, Mahrez is left, and then you're playing the Community Shield a week before the season, and he still doesn't get in the first 11. And I can't quite work out, because we all know how good he is. What is it that's sort of stopping him, or perhaps maybe slight lack of belief in that he doesn't just put him straight in? He played Alvarez behind Haaland. These are all positions that Foden could have played, but he still doesn't play him.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think Pep knows where his best position is. We've seen him play left, we've seen him play right, we've seen him play in the middle, we've seen him play false nine. And he sort of does all right everywhere, but there's nowhere where he stands out where you think, make that position your own. Like Gary said, Foden on the right would be perfect, but he's playing him inside. Bernardo's out on the right, but Bernardo on the right isn't the best. And then Cole Palmer's come in there, so I still think he's having a bit of a tinker about with it. And I think what you said before about the Man City myth with the squad, you are right. But the thing is, there's a lot of players that can play in 5 or 6 positions if need be. Not outstanding, but they do a job there. And like you say, with Foden, I think there's no excuse for Phil Foden now. This is his standout season. He's got to shine now. You know what I mean? We've won the treble, and if there is a drop, it's players like Foden. I'm thinking, right, make the position your own. Don't be happy coming off the bench. You're Phil Foden. You know what I mean? Get in there, make a statement. Kevin De Bruyne last season, late on in the season, was picking up niggles and injuries. Foden should be grabbing that game and saying, this is my position now, I'm having it. Or Riyad, like, I'll play on the right, you know, show me. But he had some good chances yesterday. He missed a really good chance. He created the goal when he spun on the halfway line. But I get what you're saying, but I'm a Man City supporter, and I don't really know where Phil Foden's best position is.
Well, as much as I like giving Man City their time in the sun after the treble, you do deserve it. We have to touch on some of the other clubs, and now this is a chance for maybe one of you to go viral in a few months, because it's time for the top 6 predictor. I'm going to need your top 6. Remember, this is going to live on the internet forever.
I know.
And if you put Man United top, people are going to pan you.
I'm not putting Man United top. Just because of the 3 thing and never winning the 4, I am going to go Arsenal to win the league.
Whoa.
I'm going to go City second.
You've just said before in the last answer that City...
No.
City will win the league.
Yeah,
He's just come back from holiday, let him go.
Yeah. If I was putting my life in their puts, but I'm just going to go Arsenal, because I think Arsenal can beat them this year. Arsenal, City, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Villa.
Okay.
You know what, I'll let you decompress after that, Carragher.
Newcastle, and to be fair, Tottenham, I just think Newcastle Champions League and Tottenham, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, and if Kane leaves, you could just go like that. I mean,
I'll let you know. I'll let you know in a bit.
We'll come back to you on the next over. Don't worry,
I'll go Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham.
Who agrees?
Well, listen, Gary was right last season, so I hope you're right again.
I think he's given us a charity Premier League.
City finished 11 points ahead of Liverpool. You're miles wrong on that one.
What?
No, but to be fair, Arsenal finished only 5 points behind in the end, which I think is a hell of an achievement. And I think the 3 signings Arsenal have made improve them a lot. And I think City, it'd be difficult for City to improve on last year based on the fact that they've won everything. I just feel like Arsenal really have got. I like Havertz as a player. I think Havertz was underachieving at Chelsea.
Arteta has overseen 2 massive bottle jobs in 2 seasons, though. Maybe that's a part of the fabric of the club that they can't just go over the line.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he'll come under big pressure if it doesn't go well this season.
What you're saying there, I thought it was interesting. Yesterday watching the game, how wound up Arteta was on the side of the pitch after about 10 minutes. I love passion. We've got Jurgen Klopp. You love it when he's involved, and we all love to see our managers show that. But I just thought it was too much. 10 minutes, 15 minutes into the Community Shield, he got a yellow card himself because he wanted someone booked for pulling his shirt, and I thought,
should have been
wow.
booked.
I know, but what I'm saying, he was that incensed this early in the season. It's like, this is a long season, a very long season. They're back in the Champions League.
I spoke to a non-league coach, and they'd had this sort of briefing pre-season about the sort of touchline behaviour, and they said that Arteta was a big reason that was brought in from last season's behaviour.
He got a yellow card after, 15 minutes?
I think.
Where was this when Jurgen Klopp was sprinting down the shouting at referees? You know, you got Mourinho doing knee slides.
Are you hosting this? Are you going to put an Arsenal shirt on? Do you know what I mean?
Carry on, boss, carry on.
Yeah, Pippa, come on.
It's true, though.
Pippa, we did a Sky Bet fan hope survey. 47% of City fans said Arsenal were their biggest rivals. Now,
Feels
with
like it now.
Timber, Declan Rice, huge signings, Kai Havertz. You know, still, I think the jury's out on Kai from both Chelsea fans and Arsenal fans, but it makes us stronger. Do you believe that we can go again? Because there's big praise from Gary saying that we've got the potential to win, but I didn't expect.
Yeah, I didn't. Before I even answer that question, I've heard of Beyonce's Beehive. I've heard of Taylor Swift's Swifties, but Gary Neville's got a whole different breed of fans because when you made that prediction last season, I laughed in your face saying that City will bottle the league. My socials were full of, you need to apologise to Gary because he was right. And
You haven't though, have you?
Gary's
Do you know what I mean? I'm still waiting for it.
It's not coming either, is it?
It doesn't need to either. I get a lot wrong.
No, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm always looking forward to a new season. Actually, no, not always. But this season, on the back of last season, I'm excited to see what we can do. We've seen the improvements. We've seen the additions to the team. Timber looks amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't see it until after the game. I didn't notice at the time that his boot fell off and he still carried on playing. Like, if that is not what you call heart, that I want to play that in my team. And he's fitted in straight away. And Kai Havertz, like you said, the jury's out. I mean, in pre-season, there was a lot of talk about him and he messed up in an MLS game or something like that, but then he scored the next one. I think he needs to give these players time to fit in. Arteta knows what he's doing. I've got trust in Edu and Arteta. Now, I didn't a couple of seasons ago, if I'm honest with you. Especially after lockdown, I was like, no, don't know what's happening there. But what we've seen from this Arsenal team, they've been strong throughout the whole season. And the points we finished on last season is enough for us to build on. So it all depends what happens when the season starts. We've got some tough fixtures in the first few months, but...
Will you sign a keeper? That was the bit that I...
Raya.
See, I saw that actually really impressed me the other day because I thought Ramsdale did struggle a little bit in the last 5 or 10 games. I actually liked Raya at Brentford, so I thought the idea of signing him was again another sort of message that he's not taking what happened last season lightly. You know, the things that cost them a problem, there were minor details that caused them a problem in that last 10 games. But Ramsdale was one of those issues in that last 10 games.
He was a bit erratic at times.
He was erratic, and you can't have that intent with keeper 10 games to go. You cannot have an erratic goalkeeper.
But the thing with Arsenal is, I think last season they were seen as this young, up-and-coming team. Most people probably felt City would do it towards the end, the experience, things like that. And I think even when you fell away, you might get things on social media, but I think in the main, most people thought, what a great season Arsenal have had. But what Arsenal have done in the summer makes them better. But I think this idea now that keeps getting put out there, that young Arsenal team, you know, don't spend the money that City do. Arsenal have spent an unbelievable amount of money in the last 2 or 3 years. So I think we've got to come away from that. There should be a lot expected on them. Not that they should win the league, but they should be going for every trophy. And it should be, if they don't quite get over the line in the league, like last season, or a big cup final, they should be criticised for that, because I think we should expect a lot more from Arsenal this season, because, as I said, yes, Arteta has done a brilliant job, but there's been a lot of finance there
that's
as well.
what I'm nervous for.
Havertz signing, to be totally honest with you, I think it's a bit of a risk. He's one of the top earners there. He's a good footballer. I think he'll fit in better at Arsenal.
I don't think there's been that much hype about that.
Talk about him. I mean, Gary's saying he could be the difference between you winning the league and not.
He's a very good player.
I think he's possibly been talking about him playing in the number 8 and stuff. Arsenal's midfield automatically becomes a lot weaker when he's in it.
Yeah.
I mean, also Rowan can play in that number 8 role as well, to be fair. once he's at his full fitness again.
Who's sorry?
Smith Rowe.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's not going to work either, is it?
It could.
I just looked at Arsenal's front line of sort of Martinelli, Saka, Smith Rowe, Ødegaard, Jesus, Havertz. They all have a profile that. Pardon? Nketiah. They're all mobile. They can all play across the front. I think I think Havertz is a very good player. I think at Arsenal he'll be a lot better than he was at Chelsea.
I think he's more suited to the way Arsenal play.
Yeah.
But is he better than Ødegaard in the 10? No. Is he an out-and-out striker that's going to win you the league? No. There's talk about him playing 8, possibly replacing Xhaka in there. I can't see it.
I was surprised Pochettino let him go. I thought he would want to work with him.
Why do you think the jury's out on Havertz?
He's not out with him for me.
No, did you say the jury's still out on Havertz?
Yeah, well,
it is.
It is.
Why is it out? We've seen him for 3 years.
Why'd you sell him?
Hey, Rory.
You've seen him for 3 years.
That's what I'm saying.
He's not out
enough of Chelsea.
Because the jury's made his mind up. If the jury wasn't out, we'd kept him.
He wasn't a disaster at Chelsea. He's one of those players where he done all right.
Yeah.
He did okay. He did, you know.
That's not true. That's not true. He
what's
didn't
your
do all
thoughts
right.
on him?
He was a really bad player for us. It really didn't work for him. That's why we sold him. To say the jury's out.
He's just saying he was good.
No, sorry. I said
No, it's the opposite.
I think somebody suggested that the jury was out.
I think
the jury's not out.
Adam said it was.
Like verdict's in. Verdict's in. He's gone.
I think Havertz
No, we desperately needed rid of him.
No, I don't think it was a disastrous signing. He did score the winner for you in the Champions League final, didn't he?
He did. I mean, Missy
scored the winner for you in the Champions League.
That can happen, can't it? Missy Batshuayi scored a goal for us, we won the league.
I know, but what I'm saying is, he wasn't one of those signings that you looked at like a Werner, who you just go total disaster, you've got to get him out the club straight away. He was a young player, he came in, you're not quite sure what his position is. I'm not saying it's a great signing for Arsenal, by the way. I'm still a bit, where's he going to fit in? For him to be a success at Arsenal, he's got to go higher than the performances he showed for Chelsea. But I don't think he was a disaster for Chelsea. He was one of those where you're thinking, can someone get more out of him? Can he play in a certain position to get more out of him? He never smashed it at Chelsea. No way.
He was one of the most wasteful strikers I think we've ever seen.
Yeah,
but is he a striker? For me, he's not a striker.
No, but what?
He's not a striker. He was playing as like a false nine for Tuchel, and he wasn't really a striker. That's my point with Arsenal. Where does he actually play? He played up front yesterday. He's not a centre forward. It's whether he could play in that position where Granit Xhaka played last season. If he's been moved on, that's where I think he'd be perfect.
That's reimagining him altogether. That's making him a midfielder.
He's not a centre midfielder. He's not a centre midfielder.
I'd stick him up front.
He's not a centre
There
forward.
was a stat last year. You said about the most wasteful striker. I think there was a stat that like he missed the most chances. It was ridiculous.
Well, he missed 2 big ones yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, but I think there's an element of what you're hoping. How old is he now, Havertz? By the way,
I don't even know.
He's not old.
million by the sounds of it.
You're hoping there's what was it about Darwin Núñez before that you think there's going to be that potential. Rashford, for instance, had seasons where he was sort of like 10s, 9s, 12s. All of a sudden, you're expecting that player might just. Ronaldo did it for 4 years at United.
He's not going to do that.
No.
He's not that type of player.
No, I think
he was never a centre forward when he came from Leverkusen.
I think he can get to 15 to 20 goals. I think in the right team, he can get to 15 to 20 goals. So for me, you're hoping that 8 goals, 9 goals. All of a sudden, those missed chances, if he's getting them all the time, that confidence comes, that calmness and surety, and all of a sudden it goes from 9 to 18. Then you talk about a major player. Was he that bad at Chelsea?
Yeah, he was bad. Honestly, I mean, people will always flag the goal in the European Cup final, so don't get me wrong, he's etched in Chelsea folklore forever, and we'll be eternally grateful for what happened in Portugal.
You don't sound
it's scoring a huge iconic goal doesn't make you a very good player for the club. It doesn't change who you've been for the club for 3 years. And it certainly doesn't make you a sort of statement signing for a team hoping to win the Premier League.
You're going viral again.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for it. This is the Rory Jennings special.
Yeah, I'll probably put the kiss of death on it. But yeah.
Talking of statement signings, Adam, Onana, I know the jury's that some people love him, some people hate him. Makes you a better team, right?
I think he immediately makes a better team. I think we saw with the goal Lance scored at Old Trafford on Saturday that there's going to be a few squeaky moments, and the defenders need to learn that if you give the ball away, he's going to be off his line. Do you know what I mean? So I think we have to get used to him. I think we're going to be squeaky. I think there'll be days when we're longing for David De Gea to kick it out for a throw-in again. But I think ultimately it'll be a huge positive to the team. I think we've seen some of the distribution of the ball already, just fizzing it out to the fullbacks. I know it's just simple things, but so many times David De Gea will get on the ball, go to play it. Defenders and fullbacks are like, where am I going? Am I going forward? Am I coming back? Don't know where to go. And then the move just breaks down and the team slows down again. So I think Onana will immediately bring that. And what I've been impressed with him the most is his attitude and his character. He seems to be a Man United player. So even if he does make a mistake, I feel like he's got the backbone, you know, the character and the personality to be able to just go, I've made a mistake, I'll move on with it and get stuck in. You've seen him getting stuck into his teammates when they were making mistakes and stuff in pre-season. I love him at the moment.
Isn't that
I think
not a
he's
risky
a great
job?
addition.
If you're a keeper that takes massive risk, gets lobbed from 55 yards and then you're berating your centre-half, is that good for team morale?
Those two things never happened in the same instance. He never got lobbed and then berated his defenders.
I'm just saying, is this what you want?
No, I mean, I know what you're saying about that. I mean, I used to think if you're going to hand it out on the pitch regularly, and there were only 1 or 2 players that I played with that ever did, you can't make mistakes yourself. You can't.
That goal weren't a mistake from him. It was Delo who gave the ball.
No, I didn't think it was a mistake on Saturday, to be fair. No, I didn't. I'm just saying, but if you're going to actually berate your players on the pitch publicly, which I say I only played with 1 or 2 players that ever did, regularly, I mean, you better be very good and not make a lot of mistakes yourself, because they're going to start going back for you. I do think Manchester United need to change goalkeepers. It got to the point, I think the cup final was the final straw. I think the reason that Manchester United were a little bit disingenuous towards De Gea, and it was a bad ending really in terms of what he'd done for the club, but I think they had to do it in terms of being hard, because I think they'd committed probably a little bit too early. He'd done well during the season to an extent, but I think the cup final was just like, hang on a minute, that can't go in your net. And there was that statement, that can't go in your net, and it had happened too many times. So I think the distribution, along with the fact that there was shots starting to go in that really shouldn't have gone in, they had to make that call, and I think it was a harsh one, but they had to do it to him. And look, Manchester United, I've said it before, I think it's the toughest position. I think in Premier League football, as Manchester United's goalkeeper, people in this room may disagree with that, may think it's bias. You come under more scrutiny than any other player in English football, I think, if you're a United goalkeeper. So I wish him all the best, because he's going to need that personality and that character, because people will get onto him. Every media organisation, every pundit, every fan from every other club, if he does make a mistake or two, you know what's going to happen at every single occasion. And I think the lad at the other end, Højlund as well, centre forward for Manchester United.
I think that's the second most.
I think they're the 2 positions that you're going to get put under most scrutiny, and they're the 2 ones that have to settle in. The reason I'm a bit nervous about United's season is you've got these 2 unknowns at either end of the pitch in 2 focal positions that really have to hit it off for Manchester United to be better than last season.
Yeah. I think the beauty with Højlund is we don't have to. I think we'll see Marcus Rashford go through the middle earlier this season, and then maybe
he doesn't
Sancho's
like playing there,
Garnacho, because Garnacho for me is looking.
But he doesn't like
really
playing there, though.
good.
I mean, I spoke to him a few weeks ago. He was categoric. I play off the left. He's not going to play there, obviously, but he wants to play off the left.
I think that's obviously the ideal choice for him. But in the early season, I think Højlund's injured as well at the moment. He's arrived injured, which don't help. But I think, once we get started with the season, I think it'll be Rashford through the middle, Garnacho on the left.
You scored the lowest amount of goals in the top 6, 58 goals. You need.
The real answer here is that, to be fair, Erik ten Hag wanted 2 centre forwards. He wanted the young one to back up Harry Kane.
Yeah.
He needed 2 centre forwards. He needs 2 centre forwards because Martial could probably leave, or he'll become unpredictable like he has been.
Yeah.
Rashford definitely wants to play on the left. So we haven't actually got a centre forward. Manchester United do not have a centre forward.
Why haven't he gone for Harry Kane? Why haven't he gone for Kane?
You don't want it. You don't want it. You can't go for a player that's bottled it and he hasn't got the balls to say, I want to leave Spurs.
I think
season he does the same thing.
No, I disagree with that, Adam. He tried that on the overlap 2 years ago. It didn't work out that well for him. So I think this time he's probably doing it in a different way, but behind the scenes.
But Man U haven't gone for him because you can't deal with Daniel Levy like Bayern Munich are now. And Man United, who need a centre forward, can't be going to the last minute of the window and then you don't get him and then you're left nowhere.
To be fair,
that's why Man United.
I'm hoping that they're watching what's happening. They're seeing that an £86 million deal might get agreed with Bayern Munich, and Kane goes, I ain't going. I don't think, I might be wrong here, I have no idea, I've got no contact with Harry Kane whatsoever. I'll be stunned if Harry Kane goes to Bayern Munich. If he doesn't want to break that Premier League goal scoring record, that all time, I'll be absolutely stunned if he goes to. And Bayern Munich are a huge club, by the way, but I just don't see that at all.
Do you not think, as a striker, is it that important when you've already got the Tottenham's goal scoring record?
It's massive for him. People keep talking about Harry Kane and trophies. Do you think what if Harry Kane goes to the Bayern Munich and wins the Bundesliga? Who cares?
Yeah, he'll care. Is it he'll care?
He won't.
He's not to pack personal pride.
They win the Bundesliga.
A
record can be taken. No one can take your trophies away, can they?
I saw an interview with Alan Shearer the other day. I thought this anyway. Yeah. But Alan Shearer got asked, the Premier League record goal scorer or the Premier League with Blackburn. He just said, my job was to score goals.
Yeah.
That was his answer. I don't care what you say. Lineker, the 3 greatest goal scorers in English, sort of, let's say the last 30, 40 years. Lineker hardly won a trophy. Shearer hardly won anything. Won one trophy.
It's easy to say that when you won one trophy, though.
And Harry Kane has not won a trophy. Harry Kane, for me, why are we all desperate for him to go?
He's the one that winning.
Playing a goal scorer. The great thing is, everyone's talking about him going to Bayern Munich. Yeah. He's one of the best players we've ever seen in the Premier League. Why do we want him to go?
Could he not do both?
Stay at Tottenham, and if you can go on a free to United or City, wherever you can go, do that.
I want him back in 3 years.
But coming back to it, United, I think, I hope they're being clever, and I hope Kane's being clever, and that they're waiting to get a deal whereby they agree with Munich. He then says, no, I'm not going, and I want to go to United. Because United need Harry Kane, right? They still need the young lad as well to back him up and let him bed in and play his 25, 30 games. He didn't play every game for Atalanta last season. So I'm worried that we've got this kid up front who, to be fair, has got massive pressure on his shoulders, that everyone's going to be watching him. He needs that pressure taken off him a little bit. Kane puts United into that sort of realms of catching Arsenal and City. That's what I think he does to Manchester United.
United have just spent £72 million on an injured centre-forward who scored 9 goals in Serie A last season. Are we sure they're going to be clever in the transfer market? That doesn't really feel...
No, but my point is, if that's someone that they're building, if that's someone that they're going for the future and think that that's going to be the sort of next big thing, fair enough. But they need someone right here, right now.
How much is Nunes?
60 odd, but he's played 100 senior appearances.
60 odd, that was 90 on it.
Exactly. He's turning the 6 up prices and take 20 off the Liverpool prices.
Is that a Scouse deal? He paid half money.
It's 98. 150 million, whatever.
Harry Kane puts United in the title race.
Absolutely.
30 goals.
I've said this for 3 years.
Harry Kane, Sancho, Varane, equals the title, doesn't it?
Honestly, Harry Kane...
one more of them.
Do you not think so, though? Kane puts them in the title.
Manchester United...
the title race, they wouldn't win the title with Harry Kane.
Harry Kane puts Manchester United right in there with City and Arsenal.
But do you know what, to be honest, I'm hearing that Bayern Munich, Tottenham have just rejected 100 million bid for 100 million euros for Harry Kane.
Is that fact?
But do you know why they're rejecting it? Because they know he's not going to go. I swear to you, Daniel Levy is cut.
I think he's gone on holiday to Miami for 2 weeks.
Daniel Levy sat there thinking, the minute I accept... Harry Kane wants them to believe that he'll accept that money. He accepts the 100 million euros. Harry Kane says, no, I don't want to go there, but I'll go there for 100 million. And then Levy's dead.
That he's thinking, really thinking...
Yes. Levy is definitely thinking that Harry Kane's not going to go to Munich or else he accepts it.
Well, we've seen what he did with Modric before. You don't care, really.
He wasn't going to lose him on a free, though.
Okay, now Flav, we're on Spurs. Yep. Happy with Postecoglou? I mean, it's a sea change from what you have.
Oh yeah, it's massive. Yes, I don't think you'll find a Spurs fan out there that ain't happy with Postecoglou being at the club. Before, if you had a choice of all of the names that we were linked with, Nagelsmann, Tuchel, all the others, Pochettino, we probably wouldn't have put Postecoglou above them, but right now, we're ecstatic. And part of that is just how he's handling the football club. He's taking responsibility. There was a case in point where he was talking about Lo Celso. We spoke to someone in Spain. Apparently, Lo Celso wants to go back to, or Villarreal are looking at him, and he said, "You don't have to go to Spain. I'm right here. Ask me the question about Lo Celso. I like him. I want him to be a part of the squad." That blunt honesty, and it wasn't even blunt honesty. It's just a normal thing for a normal human being to say. With Conte, it was just you have to pick apart what he's saying. Why does he mean it? Why does he hate us so much? You're working so hard to work out what he actually means. With Postecoglou, he just says what he means, and so for that reason, we're excited. The other thing is the brand of football he plays. He has played wherever he's gone. We've been crying out for that for a long time. Weirdly, if Harry Kane is to leave, now's probably the time because we probably will make up some of the goals lost by our style of play. Defence is another issue. We need to sign 2 top quality, very quick centre-backs in order to compensate for how attacking this team will be next year. But overall, really positive, and the fact that the vast majority of fans they're not picking us for top 4, top 6. So a lot of people are saying we're not even a top 6 club anymore. I think will actually help us because we'll just be able to get on with the season. No European football, cup competitions that we never win anyway. So just got to concentrate on the Premier League. And I think
you'll be able to get on with finishing 8th brilliantly.
Now, from one new manager to another, close your ears, Flav. Pochettino, Rory.
Yeah.
Buzzing?
Yeah, well, I think he's conducting himself really well. I'm delighted with what's happened. I can't believe it, really. I think our pre-season has been pretty much perfect. You can see what he's doing already. I think you can see that he's embraced what's been sent from him from above. But I mean ownership rather than God. But, like, you know, Chelsea have this policy now of like really going for young, vibrant talent, and maybe doing that to the detriment of the experience in the team, which I think could be quite weird. You know, I was looking at the ages of the squad, and like Ben Chilwell is now one of our more sort of senior players, which is weird and potentially risky. But I like it. I think that there's this real young, youthful hunger in the squad. There's a desire that's back. And if you look at what Arsenal did last year, I thought they were exceptional, weren't they? They were the youngest team in the league. So I can't believe it, because Pochettino's far too Tottenham for me at the time. And I didn't really think that it would work, and I was really worried. And I can't say that many things this ownership are doing are inspiring me and don't chime with me in terms of the direction I want our club to go in. But the pre-season has been great, and I'm more optimistic now than I think I've been for a while.
You know, you said the desire's back. Is that just by watching pre-season again? Because Chelsea were an absolute disgrace at the end of last season in terms of the players, the performance they give, the effort they were given. How can you say the desire's back?
Pre-season. Like there is an energy that Chelsea are playing with in this, you know, this Premier League series that took place in the States. Chelsea won. I know it's irrelevant, but Chelsea did win it. I'm not claiming it. I did not make that thing. Just factually passing that information on. But we played, and there was an energy and an enthusiasm. And you know, certain players at the club over recent years, they felt slightly like mercenaries. You know, and maybe not through any fault of their own. I'm not judging players for trying to earn as much money as possible, maybe not caring about the club. You know that Aubameyang doesn't care about Chelsea. You know that Kalidou Koulibaly doesn't care about Chelsea. That's what we were dealing with last year. Whereas the players that are playing now, you know, you look at maybe Ian Matson, you look at maybe Carney Chukwuemeka, it feels like they're there for the project, for the club and for the badge on their shirt. And to be totally honest, that's enough for us. I think, you know, obviously the clubs that you two played for, I think there is sometimes an expectation to win silverware. And while that is the case of modern Chelsea, I think a lot of Chelsea fans, particularly of a certain age, it's just fight for the badge, fight for the club. And I think this crop of players, the way that Pochettino's setting up, I think it's really happening. So yeah, it's born out of pre-season, it's born out of the players that's coming in as well. But yeah, I'm feeling mildly optimistic.
I mean, I think he's a class act. I mean, at the time where it was Ten Hag and Pochettino for United, because I know Pochettino reasonably well, I would have said go for him, but I think Ten Hag's done a brilliant job. I think he'll do an outstanding job at Chelsea. He's class. He will not carry any deadwood. He'll get rid of them if you don't see that desire that you're talking about. He likes young players. He likes players he can mould. He likes players who do what he wants to do. He's done this at Tottenham before, where he's got rid of a squad that was ageing. He had some poor characters in there. He got rid of them inside 6 to 12 months and turned them into the hardest running, along with Klopp's Liverpool, team in the country, and he'll do exactly the same at Chelsea.
That's happening already. That's what's happening on pre-season. We've looked so aggressive and so lively. It's just nice to see the team playing with that urgency, particularly when you factor in how poor we were at the end of last year. You know, when the players did. I'm convinced that they down tools. Yeah, I'm convinced that that's what happened.
When Pochettino went to PSG, it was deemed that was something that should be a negative on his CV and that you shouldn't touch him after that. I thought it was the other way. No one really succeeds there. If you watched his PSG team when he had Mbappe, Neymar and Messi up front, they were an absolute joke, really. They were so far away from being a Pochettino team. Yeah, he'll have had experiences of what not to do, of how, you know, these star players that he had to try and deal with. I feel like he'll be so much better off the back of that than he would have been before he went, when he was at Tottenham and he had, to be fair, a group of players who were all with him. He's a better manager now, having been through that experience at PSG, than he is the one that went before he went to PSG, in my opinion.
I think that the one thing that'd be different here is that, compared to Tottenham, a little bit like Arsenal last season, because he'd done such a great job bringing young players through, everyone loved the football, even when they just missed out on a cup final or the league, there wasn't too much criticism flying about. You've just said that our two clubs are sort of brought up on winning trophies, but I think that's been Chelsea for the last 10 or 15 years. Forget the football, we'll change managers left, right and centre, we want to win, and it's been a winning machine, and I've got great respect for it. I'm not saying this season, I don't think you'll quite make the top 4 this season, but I think over the next couple of years, there will be questions asked of Pochettino that have not been asked before, in terms of, certainly in the Premier League, maybe a PSG in terms of the Champions League, but that's where I think the pressure will crank up on what we want him to produce, because he's put in a bracket in terms of managers as one of the top managers without sort of winning maybe what Klopp's won the Champions League, Guardiola. Do you know what I mean? He's sort of put up there and hasn't quite got the trophies to sort of back it up, even though I'm a massive fan.
Yeah, he's seen as being an elite manager, I think. I think he's seen in that category. But this year, I do feel like, within reason, of course, I feel like he's got a bit of a free hit. Because the squad is so young, it's seen as being, I mean, look, the way that the club's being run from the top, it's wild, isn't it? Like, we got rid of 12 players this window and we're still bloated. That's wild.
He will provide it he'll be a shield for those owners, just as Klopp has been at Liverpool.
But I hope not. I really hope that's not the case. I really don't want that.
But he will be, because what those owners need is someone, to be fair, to front the club. Your manager is doing interviews 3-4 times a week, pre and post match, 2-3 games a week. So a minimum of 4 interviews a week, usually 6.
Yeah.
He speaks well. Everyone trusts him, fans like him, opposition players and coaches like him. So he's going to be a very good front for the owners. The owners can sort of slip into the background and continue with whatever they're doing. He'll be a good front for them in that sense. I think they've made a smart choice. One thing the owners said when they first came in was that they wanted to go long term. They wanted to change the model. I actually believe they believed that. I think they wanted to do that. So when they named Graham Potter and they wanted the 7-year project, I think they had intent to do that, but it's just gone badly wrong. I think that Pochettino can deliver their vision of being there for 4 or 5 years and delivering really solid performance and bringing young players through, generating players from the academy. I think he can be their solution, if you like. He can be the answer to their problems.
I think he is the answer. But I also think that they could be the problem. Like, did you see towards the end of last year, when they were going in the dressing room, presumably,
he won't accept that.
He won't have.
No, he won't accept that. He would never. Honestly, if they start popping up in the dressing room, they'll be out of there in 5 seconds. Honestly, he will not accept that.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because the way that the club is being run, certain things like these are non-football things, but certain things that the club are doing, really not in keeping with the traditions of football, let alone Chelsea.
But he's smart enough to manage up correctly as well. You got to remember, he managed Daniel Levy over the last 15 years as well as anybody has. So he's been at Paris Saint-Germain, where you've obviously got ownership as well, really influential. He can manage up that way, no problem whatsoever. So I think he'll keep them exactly where he wants them. He'll probably tell them that I'll come and see you 25 minutes after the game every single week and have a cup of tea with you, and I'll take you through exactly what happened, and he'll involve them. He won't be stupid enough to sort of cut them off and say, you get over there. He won't do it that way, like Conte tried maybe at sort of Tottenham. He's not. He will definitely collaborate with them, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's
all. Top 5, Josh. That's what we're dreaming.
Top 5.
Well, 5th, on the proviso that 5th gets Champions League.
Well, we've got to get on to Liverpool now. Well, 2 very influential players have left. You've got Milner and Henderson. Yeah. Are you going to be a better team? You haven't got Caicedo. You need improvements, I think, across the board.
Yeah, look, Liverpool look scintillating in attack from particularly what I've seen on pre-season. I don't think there's a club in the league that have got that level of quality across the front line that Liverpool have. Maybe a bit of its potential, but the midfield, I just thought that the rebuild, as it were, that was touted was they need to rebuild the midfield and maybe look at the defence a little bit. It'd be ideal if you could do both. And it was taking along brilliant. I think McAllister's a brilliant signing. He looks like he's fitted in perfectly already. Szoboszlai was a bit of one that kind of developed, it opened up. That was a real kind of stole a march on other clubs getting in. Looks like he's got great potential. And then you think, go and get a 6, and if you can keep Fabinho, get a backup 6, get someone to learn off him. Great, that's your midfield rebuild pretty much done. Maybe one more would be great, but you can get on with that. And then they've sold, losing Milner as well. That's basically the 3 guys who played DM for Liverpool have all left the club. And Klopp said, we don't have a proven one there. And that's mad, because this is a huge season for what they want to do. I think fan kind of discomfort is on the rise a little bit. I think there's plenty to be optimistic about. I think they could well score their way out of all kinds of problems this season. I think because having had, in terms of just overall feeling about Liverpool's chances.
Oh, okay.
So, when we changed system at the back end of the season, it looked like they'd not covered up all the problems, but got them playing again. Everyone looked to be pulling in the right direction. Trent looked like he'd finally starting to become the player that we all know he can be, back to that kind of level. And we looked like Liverpool again, having had an absolute dour campaign where after players, we were on here countless times saying, what's up with Liverpool? You couldn't figure out whether it was psychological, physiological, all of those. Felt like we turned a corner. End the season optimistically, and you're thinking, okay, do that rebuild, put some fresh legs in there and go again. But right now, again, we're going into about to start a campaign with Curtis Jones playing in the six for Liverpool. I think he's a terrific footballer. I think he gets so underrated. I think he's got a really high ceiling. But he's played one professional game of football, a senior level football as a six.
But this goes back to last summer. So when you think of last summer, Liverpool didn't buy a midfield player, right? So then everyone's another 12 months older. So everyone's talking about this one's gone, that one's gone, this one. It was right for them to go. It was right for James Milner to go. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita. You're getting offered money, massive money from Saudi Arabia for Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, who looked like the legs had completely gone last season. Jordan Henderson's 33. Fabinho, you're not quite sure. So because they didn't get anyone last summer who was, say, 23, 24, 20, you end up in a situation where all players who are old, coming to the end of their career, some of them great players for Liverpool, you're left basically with almost nothing there. So this thing about who they're going to buy in defensive midfield, do you think they should have kept one of those players if they didn't have someone lined up?
Yeah.
Because they've won the lottery in terms of the money they've received for those two players, got them off the wage bill because it looked like at times last season that there was nothing left there. But to let the two of them go and not have someone set up, and to be fair to Liverpool in the transfer market for the last 5 or 6 years, they're clinical. They normally just bang and it's done. There's no talk about something happening. It just gets done and it gets announced the next day.
They've left themselves short and someone's made that decision. Somebody's gone. Because, like with Jordan Henderson, they went back and forth. They wanted to get a fee, eventually get a fee. They took him on the pre-season tour to the training camp to Germany. And I don't know, but wouldn't shock me if Klopp was having a word going, is there any way you can stick around for another year on this? That didn't happen with Fabinho. They went 40 million, great, that's his price.
Yeah, but you're right, these transfers dragged on a bit, didn't it? Yeah. So it wasn't like they were sold the next day and you left like that. It felt like the Henderson, the Fabinho deals dragged on for 2 or 3 weeks. And my problem with bringing Lavia in is people keep saying he's too young to be the holding midfield player for Liverpool, for the Premier League to play all season. So you need to bring someone else in as well. How does that work? If you're paying 50 or 60 million quid for a 19-year-old kid and then you go and pay 50 or 60 million for someone who's 26, so what you're basically saying, in 12 months' time, Lavia will be ready. What do you do with the other fella?
Yeah, no.
And just get the proper one right now. Saicedo. Yeah. Yes, you might think Saicedo's overpriced. I get that. But Liverpool got massively... Fabinho and Henderson were massively overpriced. So you've won on that side. You might have to pay a bit extra. This side, just do it.
I think with Liverpool, and I've said this, and it is coming this moment. The last 2 years, Chelsea have spent huge. Arsenal have spent huge. United have spent huge. City, to be fair, are City. And I think it's caught them out. It's caught the owners out. They haven't got the money to be able to compete. I think it's shocked them, the market. The Bellingham deal, 100-odd million. Rice, 100-odd million. Fernandes, 100 million. Casido, 100 million. I think they're at that 50-60 and they're comfortable there. But I think they're at that point whereby they've hit the ceiling at a lower level than the other 4 or 5 clubs are at. And it's going to come and hit them like a ton of bricks at some point, because the manager at some point is going to wake up in the morning and go, because he's shielding them, there's no doubt. He's doing an unbelievable job. He's done the best job of anybody, I believe, in the last 7 or 8 years with the budget that he's had and the spend that he's had. But he can't keep doing it. He can't keep doing it. He needs that money to be able to compete. They should just be going getting Caicedo now for him and saying, right, there you go, that's dealt with and sorted, it's 100 million. But they're trying to pinch someone off Southampton for 40 million quid, who's a good player, don't get me wrong. But Jurgen Klopp needs the real deal. Because if you're talking about what you were talking about before, about challenging Manchester City, they can't do it with a player that's got potential. They need to do it with a player that's real. And I do think it's going to come back on the owners at some point. I know they're building the stadium and they had to do that because the Anfield had fallen so far behind. So they're left with no choice. And that is driving revenue and it'll pay itself off. But they're not investing in the team at the levels the other 4 or 5 teams are. They're just not.
This goes back to that, this comfort thing is... This is just a massive season now, and in terms of the ownership, in terms of Jurgen Klopp, because if they have another season like this is why it doesn't make sense. This is why it's mad. Because people can critique Liverpool's ownership and say they don't spend enough, or they're skinflint or whatever. And look, they're not free spending owners. It's a self-sustaining model that probably looks a bit antiquated now. All of a sudden, in like a world where there's even more football clubs, you can spend bottomless amounts of money. But that's the nature of the playing field now. It is what it is. If Liverpool have another season when you get to the Europa League, I mean, Carrie, you've been through those Liverpool teams where Liverpool had Champions League quality players on Champions League wages playing Europa League football. You'll do a season, and then there's a conversation. Mo Salah's not sticking around for 2 seasons in Europa League. That's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden, your players are getting their heads turned, and the good ones that you can rely on, who are the right age, who were supposedly bought into your total project, they're getting poached from left, right, and centre. and you've missed your chance. Liverpool got a one-season opportunity here to get themselves back into that mix, and they're undercutting it at the moment.
I think it's a little bit more worrying than that, in the sense that when you looked at Liverpool signings for 30-40 million that they were making a few years ago, those players ended up being some of the best in the world. When you look at the actual players, let's say United as an example, you got Fernandes, Mount, Casemiro, Eriksen. I think Jurgen Klopp would swap his midfield now for United's. And I think there's an element now of the midfield, say for instance, that Arsenal have got with Rice, with Partey, with Ødegaard. They're actually now, he's having to overcoach them and outperform. Before, when he was signing these £30-40 million players, they ended up being absolutely outstanding and world-class players. These lads that he's got now, we know they're good players, but they're not the same Liverpool as they were 4 or 5 years ago. So he does need now, unfortunately, to sort of go and get one from the top shelf and literally put him in.
The ceiling's not nearly as high.
Yeah.
There's two they need to go and get, and this is the problem with changing the system. It's rebooted the attack, but it's still not quite. Haven't quite got the players that fit, and this is the problem. Is
Liverpool
Arsenal
needs a midfield player and a defender.
But let's say you got Lavia and Casado tomorrow for 140 million. Or 145 million. Let's just say they went and did that, the owners, right? All of a sudden, Liverpool will be like, whoa, you'd be looking at it and thinking they've got a right chance. The owners aren't going to go and do it though.
The thing is, Gary,
it
is look, and I don't disagree with anything you've said there, by the way. I wish we'd just go who's the best in class, because the thing is, this is one, they weren't quite as desperately in this market, but they've made themselves now desperately in the market by selling what they had.
They're in for Bellingham for 6 months.
Well, exactly, but they've missed out on Rice. They've missed out. There's DMs have moved now, and there seems to be a premium of truly top quality.
Well, everyone knows Liverpool are desperate, don't they?
Yeah, and that's where it's a fault of their own making kind of thing. But it is ultimately about buying the right player, because I think we get a bit lost in the headline figures of footballers sometimes. And again, Man United have thrown money at the problem since Ferguson left, and they've bought a lot of mercenary duds along the way. And Liverpool have been very canny in what they've done. I think they're trying to see if they can hold on to the old way, because you don't want to get bullied into £50 million for a 19-year-old who's played 2,000 minutes of professional footy. Stupid. What?
In terms of, I think you're kind of missing the trick. You got Jurgen Klopp, who I think I agree with Gary when he says that pound for pound he's been the best manager in the Premier League over the last 7-8 years, especially when you look what he won. I think they need to, while you've got him, you need to support him, you need to back him and bring the players in. Otherwise, you're going to have a few years with him getting Europa League football, punching above his weight.
It felt like the Tchouaméni signing of last year. If that had actually happened, we're not having this discussion now.
And that's the thing, is that it's clearly been identified for 2 years.
That's the one thing I would say why Liverpool are not quite doing. I keep thinking there's something going on with Mbappe and Real Madrid. And at some stage in this window, will Real Madrid need money? And the guy you're talking about, Tchouaméni, he chose Real Madrid over Liverpool last summer. He didn't really play too much last summer. And I just don't... Jurgen Klopp's probably having these conversations with people at the club. We need someone in this position. But are they thinking, let's give this another 2 or 3 weeks? It's not the end of the world the first 2 or 3 games of the season. We want to buy someone for the next 4 or 5 years. If he goes to Real Madrid, they're going to need maybe 50 or 60 million to help with that transfer fee. Could we get the guy that we want?
That's definitely on the card. About those conversations.
When I was talking to you before, by the way, I actually wish I wasn't saying that they had to go and spend 140 million. But the problem is the whole market. When Fernandes went to Chelsea, I thought it was madness. But then when Declan Rice has gone for 100 million, Bellingham's gone for 100 million, the actual market has shifted, unfortunately.
It feels like they're going, come on, let's just keep this market down, and everyone else goes, we're with you totally. How much for Rice? 105? Go ahead.
So what I'm saying, I wish I wasn't saying, I think DM should be 50, 60 million.
Exactly.
I think that Liverpool are right, but the problem is the whole market shifted to 100. Casado, that's why they're saying 100.
None of those players are worth that amount of money, because again, if you're going to pay 100 million for someone, it's got to have a transformative effect. But Liverpool are in a position now where, when you don't own a footballer literally professionally in that position, that might be where it's worth spending the money, but 100 million should be getting you 30 goals a season.
Is Liverpool have won massively on the other side in terms of selling, in terms of Henderson, Fabinho, so surely you've got to be thinking, there's 50 million quid we didn't think we were going to have.
And this is why it's crazy. I spend my job almost trying to work out, not necessarily my opinion on it, but trying to work out what are the conversations, what are they doing? And you're right, they were going for Lavia prior to getting effectively a £52 million windfall off selling Fabinho and Henderson. So there's the 10 million that they were arguing about straight away with no problem. What else are they doing? They were clearly waiting for Levi Colwill. He's just signed a new contract with Chelsea. So Is there a big move that they're holding out for? But the problem is, in the transfer market where you're holding out for one big thing, it's like trying to go for one big Scrabble move to win a game, whereas everyone else is just getting loads of bits and pieces and you're playing catch up, and you leave yourself in that last week of the window. We talked about it with United, with Harry Kane. You don't put all your eggs in one player's basket. There were too many last summer, and that's how you end up with Art and Mello. And it feels like that they're, talking about overpriced midfielders, we're still in the top 10 most expensive ones of all time. They can't afford to get caught short at the end of this season because it's a one and done for you.
I think for the owners.
Yeah, I think, you know what?
Experience.
As much as I love talking about Liverpool.
Our attacked boss, by the way, we're going to score loads of
negative,
goals.
so keep it flowing.
All right, we're going to get onto that, but we're running out of time, so we've got to crack on to Newcastle. Kendall, how are you feeling? I mean, must be unbelievable. Champions League anthem at St James's Park for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. I think I was 8 or something the last time we got Champions League. So, yeah, for me to see that this season, it's just whatever I could have expected from last season, it was better tenfold. So, yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Do you think this could be a fairy tale season where you go on a run, like that Spurs run when they went to Inter Milan, Gareth Bale had those incredible games.
They got beat that day, by the way. It's important to remember that.
Yeah, but Gareth Bale was poor that day. Look what he's done for football.
I'm just saying. But listen, they speak about it like they won a trophy. It's 3 days. Do you think that you can go on a run? How important are you happy to compete, or do you expect yourselves to do big things?
Yeah, I'm not like these clubs are expecting we need to go out and win it. I'm not like that, and I don't think 98% of Newcastle fans are either. I think we're just happy to, as long as we get out the groups, anything beyond that for me is successful in the Champions League. But it also has to come alongside maintaining European status next season. A little bit different, obviously, because hopefully with coefficient and stuff, there's 5 places in the Champions League, Premier League next season, and another cup run. I know that sounds like a lot, but you've got to keep maintaining and keep going at a level where you deem yourself to be progressing rather than kind of just, we just, thanks for the Champions League, see you later, we'll just go back to 9th. Our owners aren't expecting that either, so...
What's the feeling on the signings that you made? Because I was looking at the signings and when you look at them, you think of where Newcastle are now financially in the Champions League. Yeah. Has it really excited the supporters? Because they feel to me like Eddie Howe signings where he's looking at players who thinks they've got great potential and I'm a great coach, I'm going to make them even better. But I don't think the type of signings that maybe the rest of the Premier League are going, wow, how have the supporters taken that?
I think we've done that the whole time. Everyone's expecting us to go and, spend 100 million on someone, and we haven't. We've spent smartly in every single signing so far. Maybe Chris Wood, but he did bring some money back in for us. Has worked out pretty well. Obviously expecting big things from Gordon this season as well. He didn't play too much last season. But so far, Harvey Barnes has looked brilliant. He's much more effective output-wise than St Maximin. I know a lot of our fans were really upset about losing St Maximin, me included, but it was sentimental, and you can't be. You lot all know people who've won things here. You can't be sentimental when you want to try and win things. Tonali, Eddie Howe is #1 target. That's what he said, and he got him. And that was a big cop for us because obviously Milan boy, it's his boyhood club. No one expected that to happen. And yeah, it's looking okay so far. I'm pretty happy. Don't get us wrong, I still think there's stuff we need to do. We need a right centre back. We need a left back. Obviously Livramento is kind of on the verge of coming in, but that is a little bit of a weird one for me on the outside looking in, just because I think we needed someone to come in and play left back immediately. He has said he can play left back, but I just don't see him being the starting left back week in, week out. So, but other than that, I think I'm really, really happy with the signings. But I do think there's more that needs to be done there.
I felt the same as you a little bit about the signings. That at what point is the... And I hope it persists. I hope the owners and the coach are aligned in terms of how they think they're going to get to the sort of top, because obviously that's where they want to get to probably Premier League champions. Are they willing to go slowly, do you think, all the way through the journey and improve gradually each year, where they might even go back a little bit? Or is there going to come a point whereby they're going to think, we need those big players, we need that big manager? And how do you think they'll continue to be aligned for the next 2 or 3 years? Or do you think it'll be a case of at some point they'll think, nah, and they'll blink and they will want those £100 million signings that, to be fair, Eddie Howe may not want, because they might just be a little bit too sort of, they might disrupt the sort of the wage bill, they might disrupt the salaries and all the sort of dynamic in the dressing room?
That's the thing. So far, we've managed to not do that. As you said, everyone's on the same sort of playing field. We haven't overextended our wage structure at all, even for the likes of Tonali, or obviously Bruno's wanting to sign a new contract. So I think that might be the start of where we then do see a rise. The owners have said that they want to be number one, they want to win stuff. Our chairman obviously said a few weeks ago, did an interview and said, look, our aim is to be number one. So there is going to have to get to a point, obviously when it starts going wrong, because at the moment it's going pretty well, it's going nicely. There will, if it gets to a point where it is going downhill or, you know, something's going wrong, I think they will have to step that. And as I say, I think we might see that with the Bruno contract.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how patient they are in the next year or two.
Yeah, I mean,
football doesn't allow patience, does it? At the end of the day, it just doesn't. In this market, as you said, the market's shifted. There's players going for 100 million now. We are going to have to get to a point. We have spent. Don't get us wrong. Obviously, Isak 60 odd million, still our record signing. But there is going to get to a point if the market shifts and continues to grow the way that it is. There's going to have to be a point where we do.
I think those 3 signings will get better with Eddie Howe, but it feels to me they're 3 signings that Newcastle could have made if they'd finished 8th. You know, they've still been the sort of players I thought Newcastle would bring in. The fact that he's got Champions League, I thought it might have been maybe...
There wasn't a marquee.
No, it doesn't have to be marquee. It just has to be lots of money. Just when you think about, you know, they've got a player who hasn't played for a long time, who was at Southampton, Liverpool. Harvey Barnes from a relegated team, I think he's a good player. Obviously, Tonali's, obviously AC Milan. Of course, that's one of those type of names. But I think the other 2 players, it was nothing about getting in the Champions League that maybe elevated who they could maybe bring in as players, really, because I think they're players they'd have brought in anyway.
It's the FFP, that's what they keep every time there's an interview. Eddie Howe mentions.
Why is that a problem
FFP.
for you and not Man City?
You tell me. We need to figure out. FFP is just hampering us at the moment because we don't have, like Chelsea, for example, they've had a really poor season by any, their standards, but by anyone's standards really, and they've still got sellable assets. We don't. St. Maximin was the sellable asset. We've got 25 million for him. That's our peak. We don't have anyone else who we're willing to let go of that can help us out like other teams do. We've got literally, there was I tweeted a photo yesterday. 3 years ago, we have only 2 players out of our starting 11 3 years ago and not at that club anymore. So we've still got that little bit of level to go. And no one wants our deadwood. Without being nasty, but
That's going to stop the jump though, isn't it? Because of everyone else, City and Liverpool and all, I've got those revenues.
The rules that were
You've
put in
spent your money,
Man City.
You spent your money.
Have you? Well, exactly. But if you look, Everton at the 3rd bottom net spend last 5 years.
Oh, here we go.
Got, no, I'm just saying it's gone. You know what? I'm just talking about forget about Everton, mate. I'm just saying for Newcastle to make that extra jump.
But why is
without the money?
Why? I mean, look, I don't know the individual accounts of each club, but why is FFP a problem for United at the moment? They seem to be quoting FFP, and I think City have even obviously, you know, got some restrictions. Arsenal seem to sort of spend an absolute fortune.
Finally.
We just make loads of money though.
I've been banging this run for 3 years.
£4 million a match day. We're good. We're good.
£600 million over the last 5 years.
Is there revenue?
So I was looking. You probably know, and you might know the same as well. I was reading about this because Liverpool fans were getting frustrated, you know, on social media. How are Arsenal doing this? We've been in the Champions League, you know, and it said, whether these numbers are true, that Arsenal's wage bill was half of Liverpool's, £150 million a year.
We don't pay big money, and we've never paid big money. We've got someone like El Neni on 60 bags a week, 65 bags a week. You know, the Arsenal always made sure that our wage structure doesn't get broken.
When you think about big money, £50 million a year.
That's why I was really surprised about Saka's salary.
So that's when you talk about FFP and Liverpool maybe not spending as much as Arsenal. Liverpool's wage bill is £150 million a season more than Arsenal's.
Even for us, like commercially, we're just not anywhere near a level of like a Champions League club. We've just getting our new shirt sponsor. Our previous one was 8 million. This one's 25 million.
You got a lot of money off Sports Direct, didn't you?
Talking of big money, I'm glad to say that we dragged him out of Dino's calf. We've got the one and only Tom Skinner in the building. Give us a bosh.
Bosh.
Go on. I've got to darken the mood a little bit. Arsenal, obviously, the great recipients of Declan Rice, but you received 105 million quid. You happy with that deal?
I mean, like, listen, you can't blame him, can you? Like, he's brilliant at West Ham. He's going to go on to bigger and better things, and good luck to him, and you can't begrudge him. But we ain't signed no one yet, so I'm a little bit worried. But there's still a month left, so I don't know.
Off the back of, obviously, Man City winning the Champions League, you're on the Europa Conference League, but European silverware adds a little bit of spice to West Ham. Obviously, a club with a lot of history, a great stadium.
Yeah, that was probably the worst week of my life, though. That honestly was, right? So, because I don't know if you know, I was managing West Ham the week before out in America.
Yeah.
And
how did that go?
I don't know how this happened. I got West Ham rung us up. I said, Tom, come down, Legends team in America. Can you manage it? I said, you sure you're ringing me? Like, I mean, we'd love you to do it. I said, okay. So me, Kenny Brown got together. We had Anton Ferdinand, Haydon Mullins, like Jimmy Walker, and we've jumped this plane, gone to America. Now I don't know anything about managing West Ham, but I'm here.
It's like Gary at Valencia,
Oh, here we go. Oh, geez. I've stayed away from Love Island for 3 years. That Love Island shit's coming out.
True. But the morning I'm boarding the plane, now my wife was 7 months pregnant with our twin girls. And I said, look, you sure you want me to go? Like,
this is getting like Love Island.
Well, it gets better. And I said, she went, look, when in your life you're going to get managed West Ham? These are legends you're watching. And I was like, I know, I've got to do it. Right, see, you'll be all right. Got her 2 sisters to stay around the house. Flew out to America. And then the plan was, this was start of June. We're 3 days in America. We fly back. We're going to Prague. I'm in my element. Then when I land, have a few weeks off, babies will be born. Well, it didn't happen like that. Now, we've had our training day, and me and Kenny Brown are writing out what we're doing, and mine was literally score goals, go to the pub afterwards. Have to take to him. And as on the morning of the big day, my first game as West Ham, actual match, I've got the kit on everything. I can't believe what's happening. I've got all the ESPN news on me. I'm thinking this is a dream. My wife rings me. This is 2 hours before the first game. And she's in hysterics, cannot get her words out. I said, well, slow down, what's the matter? Like, shut up. And she literally can't talk. She went, I'm at the doctor's. And I went, all right, well, put the doctor on. And the doctor's gone, hello, Tom. And I've gone, you all right? Not really, we've got a bit of bad news. I said, oh, for fuck's sake. I said, OK, all right. What is it? How bad is it? And she goes, well, your wife is coming today for an appointment at the hospital to book in the date for the caesarean next month. But we've done the checks and one of the baby's heartbeats is nearly stopped. And if we don't get the babies out in the next couple of hours, you potentially lose both your daughters and your wife. And I thought, and I just burst into tears. I didn't know what to do. I've got the West Ham and I've got in this lift to go down. And as I've opened the lift, Anton Ferdinand and Jimmy Walker are both standing there. Carlton Cole's in the background. And I'm looking around, I'm just going, you all right? And they thought I was just crying with happiness because I imagine, and I was literally in a distraught. I said, I've got to go home. And they went, do you mind? Like, I feel terrible, but I need to go home. I might lose my wife. And I said, it's fine. So we got on this bus, and the bus had to drop me off at the stadium and then took me straight to the airport. Now, I've got to the airport, massive queue. I've got to the front. I said, look, I need the next flight back to Heathrow. And he said, the only flight we've got is you've got to fly to Philadelphia. You've got to wait 45 minutes in Philadelphia straight to Heathrow. I said, well, when is it? She went, it's from 4 hours' time. I'll have it. Well, I've run back out, got back on the bus and gone back to the stadium. This is true, right? I've run into the stadium as Kenny Brown has got the boys in a circle. And I said, and they're like, well, I thought you was, I said, yeah, but the plane's in 4 hours. She said, I ain't staying in America not managing a team. So I've come on, jumped and I've given the best motivational speech of my life. Right, lads, listen, I've watched you 10 years ago. You was my idol. Anton, I love you, mate. It's just, I was going mad, right? We got battered 4-1. Anyway, I've got to the airport, and as I'm in the airport, my wife's sister has rung me up on FaceTime. I'm going through security hysterics. We're going to lose her. I said, you what? What do you mean we're going to lose her? She went, we're going to lose her. I said, whoa. She went, she's in a room with 12 doctors. It's all serious. I said, no, don't say that. Boom, phone cuts out. I've gone through security. I'm now in a mess again. I'm in a different country, waiting to get the first plane to Philadelphia, my first stop. Then we get onto the plane. I get a text from the sister with a picture of these 2 babies. They're £3 each. They're in little plastic ICU things, tubed all over them. And I said, beautiful, fantastic. She went, they're okay. I put, how's my wife? This time, this is true, I've took off. I've had no reply. It's the first flight. Then it's just my luck, right? This has never happened before, but apparently it's what the captain said. As we're coming to land to Philadelphia, we are 100 feet off the ground. I can see the trees, I can see the cars, I can see the people. I'm a bad flyer. All of a sudden, the captain gives a little brace. I was like, you what? He was screaming. The plane has pulled up, turned right like you can't believe. Like all food and drink, bags are flying. People, he's mad. He's gone back up in the air and the captain's gone, this is your pilot, Delta pilot, been flying 31 years. this has never happened before, and we make sure we give you all vouchers you get off the plane. But as we was coming into land, we had to do a steep fly around because a plane has pulled out onto the wrong runway. I mean, I thought, my day can't get any worse. Well, I've landed. I've landed in
This is going to be a separate section of the overlap.
It gets better.
This is the overlap, mate, yeah?
You'll enjoy it, right? So then,
This is your life.
rings me wife's sister. She's okay. She's in recovery. Boom, boom, boom. Get on a plane to Heathrow. I make cold take straight to the hospital. Anyway, three weeks later, they all come home. They're all fine, and I've not slept ever since.
Now, Declan Rice. That one's a football.
Not a fucking chance, any that's making the over.
It's a great story. You're a great story.
So Jared Bowen, is he going to score a lot of goals?
How much of a loss is Declan Rice? Let's start with you two.
How much of a loss is the fucking West Ham fan?
What makes a good season for West Ham? Go on. What is a good season for West Ham?
Getting back to where they were in the first couple of seasons under David Moyes, where they were challenging Europe. That'll be tough because they were fantastic those first couple of seasons. This season,
under pressure for a lot of last. He was under pressure for a lot of last season.
Yeah, which I thought was a little bit harsh considering what he'd done before. But I understand that. But he stayed up and to win a trophy. And one of the things that I don't think is great about the way football's become with the Champions League and the Premier League is that great football clubs like a West Ham going like 20, 30 years without a trophy. So I was so happy for David Moyes to see him lift it. But also for West Ham, I've got no affiliation with the club at all. And that's why I'd love Aston Villa to do it this season. I think how long have Aston Villa gone without a trophy? There's lots of clubs, I'm not taking the mick here. Everton have gone a long time, Spurs have gone a long time. There's lots of clubs.
Longest of them all.
I think Forest winning European Cups. I think that competition, and the Europa League as well, I think they're competitions we should be dominating as a league because who we're competing against, we've got a lot more money than them. Teams who finished 6th, 7th in the Premier League, I think should be getting to semi-finals, finals of these competitions and being the dominant force in. To see West Ham win that, I think it was a big thing for other clubs to see the scenes of West Ham, the homecoming. And I think if you're a Villa fan, you're thinking, we've got Unai Emery, where's that final? We're going to win it.
Yeah, I saw last week that West Ham were linked with McTominay and Maguire, weren't they?
Please.
No. I mean, I don't think Harry will go there, to be honest with you. But I thought if they were to get those two players, not saying they're going to replace Declan Rice, but in terms of strength, personality, performance levels, I know people will mock potentially what's happening with Harry at the moment, but he's a bloody good defender, and for West Ham, he'd be a fantastic signing. And I think for obviously McTominay, I actually at times over this last 3 or 4 years have said, at times when I've watched them, they have, he's not Declan Rice, McTominay, but he's not. He's
You used to say that.
He's not too far away from him in terms of profile. He's that similar type of player. So I thought if they get those two players in, they could have a good season, but they need a couple of signings like that desperately. Desperately.
Do you not think there's an issue at West Ham with the way that the day after they won in Prague, so the most glorious night they've had since 1980, the day after, their owner is on TalkSport saying, Declan Rice is for sale for the right price, trying to usher that deal through. Does that
he had a year left though, didn't he?
Pardon?
He had a year left, Declan.
Yeah, but the day after, to already be sort of manipulated.
He loves the limelight, doesn't he? No, he does, doesn't he? He's one of those type of owners, but I think everyone knew Declan Rice was going there.
Does that not shelve the ambition though for the club? Like in terms of
listen, people say that about certain clubs.
Declan was never going to sign.
Yes. Well, I mean, for West Ham to win a European trophy. But the problem for West Ham at the moment, it looks like there's something going on between David Moyes and the new director of football who's coming. There's talk about David Moyes actually losing his job, and we're really interested over the next 2 or 3 weeks what happens in terms of bringing players in. I think he wants to go back to bringing Premier League players in because the transfer window didn't go great for West Ham last season. And I think the new director of football, is he a guy from Bayer Leverkusen, I think?
Yeah, I know that.
Right. Yeah. Is it? Yeah. And I think he's obviously looking maybe a foreign player, so it looks like there's a disconnect there behind the scenes.
And by the way, I wouldn't sell McTominay if I was United anyway, for the fact that Ten Hag attacks all competitions and he will need him in competition, so I wouldn't sell him personally. But
sell him and replace him. I think you have
maybe.
Maz, you must be buzzing. Brighton, European football. You couldn't have dreamed of it, could you?
No, it's an incredible season, finishing our highest ever position, getting European football, got De Zerbi at the helm, obviously Chelsea trying to poach all our players. But we've done really well last season, and I'm really, really excited. Like, pre-season's been class. We were in the same event, the Summer League, with Chelsea. And I'm really excited. We've got some great players, like young players coming through. Like I said, De Zerbi, incredible manager. I think he's top 5 for me in the league. And then, just an incredible squad, and really look forward to this season, to be honest.
There we go. Do you echo those sentiments? I mean, they're a team that was lovely to watch last season.
They were, but I think they've gone up a level from where they were with Graham Potter and De Zerbi come in. And I'd be surprised if he's your manager the following season. If you have a similar sort of season, I think you're looking at someone who looks pretty special. And they brought in, not playing good football, we've seen lots of teams play good football over the years, but the way they did it in terms of almost enticing teams onto them with the centre-backs rolling the foot over the ball, waiting for the opposition to come onto them, the goalkeeper. I actually saw Man City doing that as well. And normally, not like saying Pep's copying your manager, Pep's normally sort of the front runner for any sort of change in football. But I was seeing Man City doing that yesterday, just slowing the game down, waiting for people to come on, then trying to make a couple of passes. And I think they've been a joy to watch. They have. He's a bit mad, isn't he, the manager? Yeah. He's a bit volatile. You talked
about Arteta earlier about like his passion on the sidelines. I think he's up there. De Zerbi, he just loves it. I think he got booked 5 times last season on a touchline, and I think that's what we missed. We had past managers, Chris Hughton, Graham Potter, quite tame, quite reserved managers in that sense. And then you have De Zerbi on the complete end of the spectrum. He's just that sort of crazy Italian with incredible ideas, big ideas. And he's just been a breath of fresh air, I think, for Brighton. And like you said, we were worried about Potter leaving, going to Chelsea. We thought, because I think we just beat Leicester 4-1 or whatever it was, and then he left, and we were riding, I think, 4th in the league, something like that. And then he's gone, and we're like, what's going to happen? Are we going to go down the league? Are we going to get relegated? All these kind of questions as a Brighton fan, you're thinking, this is bad.
Would you rather have, because I'm thinking about what West Ham did last season, would you rather have a similar sort of season in the Premier League, or would you rather have like a great run in Europe and trips with your mates and nights to remember? What would you prefer?
It's a really tough question, because of course you don't want to get in that scrap of relegation.
Relegated.
No, as in like be down there because of the run of games. You're going to have so many more games having to play, midweek, weekends. It's just going to be completely different for us. We've never been used to that. We've never had that before. So to answer your question, I think I would love a good European run.
You want both?
Yeah, basically. I'm very greedy. I want both. I want to win the league and win the Europa League as well. But no, all joking aside, I think we've got a great squad. I think obviously it's going to take time to adapt to all the competitions and stuff. But I think we can do it with the players. Look at Milner, De Hood. We've made some really smart signings, free transfers, like incredible signings to come in and bring that experience. We've got Adam Lallana as well there. The experience they bring in from a European perspective is huge. And then you've got the young players, Kyle Pedro, Enciso, Buonanotte. I could go on for days, and we just got an incredible mix, I think, of experience and youth, and I think that's really key going into the season.
Talking about going on a European run, you had Aston Villa in your top 6. Do you really believe they can do that and they can maintain? Is Emery that good?
Yeah, I think he's a brilliant manager. I think he was a brilliant first time round. He went to Arsenal, but obviously circumstances, sometimes things don't work. I really fancy him. I think he's a manager that knows exactly what he wants. He's brought a group of people in with him that I think he's worked with before. My general manager that I had at Valencia is his general manager and communications guy at Aston Villa. I'm waiting for this. He didn't speak Spanish. he knows exactly what he's doing. He's been round the block. He's a top manager. And I think they'll deliver this season, Aston Villa. And I love Brighton as well. I mean, Brighton, to be fair, put the best performance I've seen last season live in all the games that I commentated on against Arsenal. I thought they were absolutely out of this world. It was unbelievable. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Look, De Zerbi, I think, came out the week before saying you're going to see, because we lost against Everton 5-1, because you're going to see the real Brighton on Sunday. And I think
it's the best performance I saw all season live. It was unbelievable. But I think Villa go into that category of Newcastle over the past 10 years when you've gone there and you've been a great club, and it's just been a bit like. But I think what Emery's done in this last 6 months, he's brought life to Villa, and Villa needs life.
He's made them a really attractive proposition for players as well.
Vidagani, the guy that's sort of Emery's right-hand man, but the biggest appointment we've made is Monchi. New sporting director. He was like the catalyst of everything that Seville did, all of their success. So it feels like last season Emery was on sort of like a trial, and he showed us what he can do with players that weren't his own players. But now the board have backed him and brought players to suit his system and that with Monchi and, his in-game management is just ridiculous. In pre-season, we're shifting between 3 different formations. He's a born winner. He just wants to win every game, and I think will be a big problem for most teams in the league this season.
You said about 3 formations in game. I think I remember telling you about Valverde, who also went on to coach Barcelona when I was. I played against Bilbao twice. When I was 3 times actually when I was at Valencia, and I mean he wasn't just 1 step ahead of me, Valverde. He was like 10 steps ahead of me. He changed 3 times in one game, and I'd never seen anything like it, to be honest with you. And I always felt like I was massively behind. When you feel inferior on the touchline, and obviously somebody in the touchline, but there against Luis Enrique, Simone at Atletico Madrid, but Valverde and Emery, I think, is similar to Valverde in his thinking behind the game. And I think the people who can do that, they're really special coaches, massively talented. And I think Villa have got someone there that could do really well for them. That's why I put them sort of where I did in that sort of top 6. I do think they've got something to go in there.
Jamie, can they maintain it? Because we've seen them almost flatter to deceive and kind of be up there. We've seen Everton be up there at times, and those teams that are kind of around 8th to 5th, they don't usually stay there long. There's so much competition. But with Emery, is there someone who can really build a style of play and a real feeling of kind of their concrete in that top 8 space?
Well, I think he's done that last season. He's come in halfway through the season. He's sort of embedded what he wants. And I think you're right. You just added 3 or 4 players. The guy you mentioned there, who used to be the sporting director at Sevilla, has got an unbelievable reputation in terms of bringing players in. I think that the defender you brought in from Villarreal, I think, is an unbelievable signing for Aston Villa, because he was a guy
what we're trying to do. A ball playing centre half, playing out from the back. The system that we're currently playing is a little bit like what Man City were doing. We've got 3 centre backs, we've got 2 in midfield, 4 across the front line, and Watkins up top. So we're sort of asking our full back to fill in at midfield as well. So he's really sort of trying to be that manager a little tactically, like what Pep is.
It also feels that he's improving players. Like you see, Mings under Gerrard didn't look like the player he does under.
Well, Watkins is the biggest one. Watkins has looked even unbelievable in pre-season, hasn't he? But you said something earlier on that I don't 100% agree with. You said European football might not be that big a deal to cope with. I think it will, especially you're talking about the manager knows European football. Yeah, but when players are not used to playing 2 or 3 times a week constantly through a season, I think it's not just a physical problem, it's a mental problem at times. Yeah. And that's why I think sometimes in the Premier League, certain teams who've made the Europa League, they can't wait to get out of it. Because they're just not used to it. It's not their way of dealing with, the games. And I think that's why I've actually not put you in the top 6, because I just think you'll go far in that competition. I think at some stage it'll have an effect on your league form.
I just think, with the players that we've currently got and how good he is tactically. I mean, go back to last season. First game for Unai, beat Man United 3-1 at Villa Park. We hadn't done that for 20 years. We did the double over Spurs. So I just think
everybody did.
Yeah, but we haven't been. We've been that club that have been like plateauing, and so I just think our manager is going to be that difference, because not only do we play the same every single week, he does little tweaks each week. Like when we played Newcastle at home, he stuck McGinn on Dan Burn. Like we've never ever seen him do that tactic before, but he did it, and it's what won the game. So I think we just don't play the same every week, and I think that will throw a lot of teams.
Baz, I need an elevator pitch from you. How are Everton going to do this year? I always enjoy it because we go back to it at the end of the season. We'll see how close you are.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? I didn't believe I'd be sat here, but I am. I think we'll be all right this year. I do. No, I do. I think if you look at it, I think everyone with Everton, and rightly so, criticised. They bring a lot on themselves, but we played the whole season without a striker. Our striker got 1 goal, which is just... Yeah. And if you look at the defensive numbers and you look at the midfield, they were mid-table, but forward, it was League 2, probably doing League 2 with this service, it was worse. So, obviously, I said it a year ago, I'm not going to say it again, but if our centre-forward stays fit...
But he's
he played, we're bringing a young lad in from Sporting tomorrow, probably, Yusuf Chimit. He's only 19, but he's 6'4", a bit more like Dominic Calvert-Lewin as in frame. Where he still wants another couple that have the non-toe from Leeds. If he can get some pace in wide there, he's got Dan Juma in. I think they'll do all right. I think people
Baz, is all right not being in a relegation fight?
Yeah, I think so. Listen, you can sit here and go, if things go right, and you can have a mad season, of course you can. But I think most Evertonians' heart rates will be a lot happier if, come April, they're nowhere near. I have them somewhere between 11th and 14th.
Surely Sean Dyche having a full season, full pre-season, he's the man to steady the ship. No, you're not going to get any surprises with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Everton will be a hard team to play against, but they'll also be a hard watch. I think you know the way Sean Dyche plays is going to be very direct. I saw the actual team that played in the friendly against Sporting Lisbon. It's just big, powerful team. You look at the midfield, a lot of energy, not great creativity. There's not going to be a lot of goals, but you always feel a Sean Dyche team will either lose 1-0, draw 1-1, or win 1-0. You know, it's always going to be that. So they're always going to be in games. I don't think you'd see Everton under Sean Dyche getting walloped week after week, 3 or 4-0. No. You know, it won't be that type of team or doing that themselves to the opposition. I think Everton will always be in games, and as I said, I think, what did you say, about 14th, 15th?
Yeah, I think anywhere between those numbers, if you look at it. I mean, we were terrible last year, and I think we finished 6 or 7 points behind Chelsea. If you'd offered me that this year, I'd bite your hand off, because I actually think they'll be right at the top in the hunt for Champions League. But this is a massive season. Stadium is, it's going to be, we're moving into it next season at some stage. We've just got to have a steady season this year, and I think we've got the manager to do it. And there's still work to be done at the forward position. We played that game Saturday, beat Sporting. We didn't have Dwight McNeil, who I can't believe I'm saying it, but it's a massive miss for us, because wasn't overly enthused when we got him, and he finished the season brilliantly, particularly against Brighton. He got 7 goals. He was out. Dan Zuma, we've just got him. We didn't have him at the weekend as well, and they are working on 3 or 4 attacking additions, and that's what they need. I think everywhere else, I'd like another centre-back, but I think everywhere else, they're all right. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I won't be sat here in May going, I don't know whether I can say we'll stay up. I hope it's done much before that.
Will the owners still not come back and watch this season again? Has that gone now?
The 3 of the board have gone, haven't they? Mashiri hasn't been at Goodison for a couple of years. MSP are just about to buy in. That's going to be done in the next 10 days. And I think then you're going to start to see a little bit of a shift towards that ownership. It won't be done all in one, but it'll work towards that with the stadium. Then they'll probably look to get that off again to someone else. So I think that's where you're going to start seeing the turn, but I don't see the chairman coming back.
Do you feel like you're waiting for the stadium to almost start a new Everton again? It feels like you're almost like sort of this season, you almost like stay in the Premier League, and then sort of like it's a new club once the actual stadium
It
comes.
has to. Listen, Goodison's amazing. You were there the last day. It's unbelievable. When it's like that noise when the Corey scored. I've seen big nights at Everton. I'm old enough to have seen us win stuff. I've never heard noise like that when that goal went in. The stadium was bouncing, as you'll well know. But it's time to move to get Everton to the next level, if you like. Kendall's talking before about commercial income and things like that. We're stuck. Our ground is at the maximum. It's 23,000 on a waiting list. That can't get it. Even if that's just gate receipts, that's money. So we are where we are. We've got to move. It will be like a new beginning. It feels like that. The chairman is waiting to go. We're waiting to bring a new CEO in. That'll be done in the next few weeks, and then we can start to maybe look. But there is about stability. If you're asking me anything, I'll bite your hand off for 14th and no sleepless nights from April onwards.
Well, Baz, I hope you're correct. You don't want to be playing in the Championship in that beautiful new ground, let me tell you now. No. On to Nottingham Forest. We sat and we laughed. 45 new signings, I think, at this point last season. Happy with how things went, survival. And what's your aims for this season?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just survival as well. It was League Cup semi-finals. I mean, we proved ourselves last year when many said we wouldn't. I think the aim is just steady the ship. 30 signings last season. We've only made 2 this season so far, but we have such a hard start. So I think we've got Arsenal, Man U, Chelsea, Man City, first 4 away games. So for Steve Cooper, the pressure's going to be absolutely huge for these first 4 to 6 games, and if he gets through that, then I think we're going to have a really strong season.
Well, the board's backed him, haven't they? And that must be, for the fans especially, because I know he's a fan favourite, that must be incredible for him and adds a bit of stability.
He's still one of the youngest managers in the Premier League. His experience already, just through what he did last season, he is going to go on to much bigger things in his career because of his age, and I just hope it's with us. I really do.
I think watching them last season, they come into the Premier League, and I know Steve Cooper well from his time at Liverpool, and he wants to play a certain type of football, but they ended up finding a way of playing that kept up in terms of having 5 at the back, playing counter-attack. The lads up front, are we
Taiwo Awoniyi, yeah.
Awoniyi, yeah. But I watched them. I commentated on the Arsenal game where it's kept them up, and there was a way of playing with it. It was a big, powerful team. It felt to me at the end of the season when you looked at Forest, the back five, and as I said, the lad up front, the midfield players, a lot of energy. And I thought if they stick with that and become that sort of type of team where you think, I'm not sure you'd want to play against them. Whereas I felt like when they first came into the Premier League in the early first few months, it was a team you thought, OK, you could maybe get after them, maybe you could bully them, but it felt like he'd fell on a system and a way of playing the players they brought in that, you know what, they wouldn't be, you know, a bit of a tough nut to crack. Certainly at home, you think of the home record was fantastic, and I think they should stick with how they were playing at the end of the season.
Nice. Yeah, it was top 5 form the last month of the season, but the away form is key, and with that comes the injuries, and we've just signed a guy for behind the scenes from Chelsea that's going to be key for us because the injuries destroyed us last season, so we can't have that again, especially with the 100-minute games and things like that going on.
Do you mean a physio?
Pardon?
A physio, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, Chelsea sacked all their medical department.
Chelsea. That's another example of the ownership doing crazy things.
Is the jury out on those guys?
No, we can't. Absolutely not. That. I've got to welcome Joseph Burnley fan into the Prem. Absolutely walked the Championship. Happy days?
Yeah, dominated it. I know we've always gone on about that, how detrimental relegation can be, but best season of my life following Burnley last season. Dominated absolutely everybody. All right, Sheffield United might have got it as one game, but apart from that, you know, we walked the league, beat Blackburn 3-0, beat Preston 3-0. It couldn't have gone any better.
How impressive is Vincent Kompany? You were with him the other week, weren't you?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I went to see him 5-6 weeks ago, and they'd started pre-season training. So they
were the first ones in, I think.
It's a weird thing. They did. Obviously, the season finished quite early, and obviously you went up quite early. So he brought them back, I think, after 3 weeks, which was like before. I think the season had just finished for the Premier League, and I was like, what's happening here? And then he was going away with them for a 10-day camp. Then they were having another 10 days off, and then they were having another sort of block for pre-season. So it's a really interesting way of doing pre-season. I'd never seen it before, never heard of it before. He's obviously a workaholic.
Yeah.
He's there till, I mean, I know we say this sometimes about managers, don't they? But I think he genuinely is. I think he sleeps 4 or 5 hours a night. I think he's one of them that's sort of like up till 10 o'clock at night, leaves the training ground at 8 o'clock. I know a few people
at the club, he's there early morning, late at night as well, just always working on meetings and things like that and delegating and stuff like that.
And I think that some of the, I mean, you've said this probably more than me, some of the players that have been great players, they've probably
they've underperformed
they haven't done that 12, 14 hour day every day and lived it and breathed it. They live it and breathe it, they love it, they want to do well as managers, but then there's that element of obsession. And I think when I went to see Vincent Kompany for that sort of few hours, you know, you get a feeling from speaking to people like the groundsman, people like the physio, what's he like? We don't go home till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So straight away you're thinking, right, there's an obsession here. He's not going to leave anything to chance. It's going to be really hard work for those that are there. The players are going to have to really sort of, obviously Burnley always have worked hard, you know, when Sean Dyche was there, but a very different feeling, I think, than when Sean Dyche was there with Vincent Kompany. And he's done well.
Yeah, he's one of those. He's one of those players where, when you think of, we talk about a great player becoming a manager, and you think straight away when you walk in the door, you've got that respect straight away because you get that. But very few players have got what he's got, because he had unbelievable respect in a dressing room at Man City that had some of the best players in the world, and you know he was still that sort of, that leader, that presence, the one they all looked up to, you know. And he's the type of guy you think if he wasn't a football manager, he could be involved in like politics or something. You know, he's got that sort of demeanour. I think he was offered.
I think his parents, I think, or one of his parents is actually the mayor in
Manchester.
Yeah, well, I saw that in the interview.
In Belgium, yeah. He has got a political family, but I was really impressed with him, and I think as well, when I first heard the words Vincent Kompany and Burnley, I thought, you just think, you know, where he's been, the glory that he's had in his football career, he was willing to go to Burnley, who have been obviously relegated. And I think there's an element of that as well. I think he'll stand him in good stead, that he's been willing to sort of step down a level that people maybe wouldn't think he would. I'm not sure many of our teammates that played for England with us who've gone on to be managers would look at that and think, that's one for me. I think they think that, you know, what can we do here? We can't match what Sean Dyche has done. So I think I was massively impressed, and I've got no doubts that his next jump will be a big one. Burnley will obviously have to try and keep on to him, but I think he really wants to prove himself in the Premier League this season at Burnley and make, you know, obviously keep them up.
Yeah, and I think we'll be all right because of him mainly. Like, obviously we talk about there how meticulous he is, and a lot of the players that are bringing in, because you were there, Jamie, we're talking about how he demands respect. a lot of the players that we're bringing in, we're making a lot of signings, and the first thing they say in the interview is, well, as soon as I got a phone call off Vincent Kompany, I knew I wanted to be there. So that just goes to show like how much of a pull he is and how much of a pleasure we are to have him at our club.
Exciting proposition. There we go.
Talking of exciting propositions, Kendall will throw Luton.
Hello.
The fairy tale story.
Yeah.
How buzzing are you to be there? I mean, what a story it's been. I mean, non-league football.
Yeah.
What, about 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's special. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but for me it's the single greatest story in the history of football, English football in particular. I mean, for me, I'm too young to have seen Luton in the top flight before, and for me the pinnacle was like seeing your European title side at Luton when we lost to you 5-3.
That Xabi Alonso goal, wasn't it?
For me was like, wow, that was the pinnacle. Since then we were dragged through the mire, sort of minus 30 points, non-league football, and it's humbling. But then the story since then, 10 years to the Premier League, the memories made, been to Hyde, Ebbsfleet, just places that I guess none of you guys know it even exists, right? So yeah, it's special.
I watched them actually in the playoff final, and to be fair, you think about what Brentford do on those Fridays. We've got a Friday night. I think your first home game of the season might be on the Friday night, 1st of September.
Yeah, West Ham.
And you're going to have to create something special, I think, like Brentford have done on those nights, where you basically beat teams up. Yeah. You know, the way in which you played, obviously, in that final I watched against Coventry. Yeah, I think that I'm really looking forward to it, because I like it when a team comes. I like it when a team comes up and plays really good football. Don't get me wrong, but I like it when a team comes up and they're a throwback, and they look like they're just going to knock it long, and it's going to be ugly. And you sort of see the big teams going there and night games, and so I'm really looking forward to Luton this year because of that. Really, the sort of difference of style.
JB, how was it playing there at Kenilworth? Because it's a special ground. I mean, it's tight. They've got the prefab like boxes that are kind of one level. The seats you have to sit like this because you can't fit. It must be special to be on the pitch.
It is, and I'm delighted they come up, and I can't wait to go on the Friday night, because you like doing something different. We're lucky the jobs that we're in. We go to all the big grounds, and it's great. But sometimes going somewhere where you haven't been before, in terms of like commentating how you get up there, and it's going to be different. It's not going to be like going to Tottenham's ground, which is amazing. And I remember Luton when I was a kid. I remember the FA Cup semi-final, 1985, I think, against Luton. I was there as an Everton fan, but Luton were a team. They had the plastic pitch, so there was always something I can remember as a kid. But the journey they've been on, I think it's brilliant to see them back in the when I say back in the Premier League, I think they actually just missed the Premier League. You went down the season the Premier League started.
And then we went down in '92 with Notts County. So yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, sort of me growing up watching football, Luton were a big part of the 80s, beating Arsenal in a cup final, I think, in 87 or 88. So they had a really good team. It's good to see them back.
Finally, Sheffield United. I mean, you're back in the Prem.
Yep.
So short hiatus, no?
Yeah, but the less said about Sheffield United, the better at the moment. I'm really, really worried, if I'm going to be honest.
You haven't even started yet.
Why are you laughing? Come and sit down here on the couch.
I'll tell you why. The team that's going to start the first game of the season against Palace is going to be a lot worse than the team that got promoted to the Premier League. So that is the worry. We lost Tommy Doyle, James McAtee, both going back to Man City. We've sold our best player in my lifetime 3 weeks before the Premier League season. And I'm feeling like I'm going to cry right now.
This has started worse than Tommy's story.
This is the overlap, not Richard and Judy.
So no real hope then?
No hope whatsoever.
Is the plan to come up and basically make a load of profit at the club, stabilise the club, and then go back down with the parachute payments? Is that?
It feels like that, to be honest, because I think if we didn't get promoted, we'd have been in massive financial trouble.
Yeah, I heard
so
that.
Just getting up, and then hopefully let's see what happens. Maybe we'll go back down, probably go back down. But just getting up, that was the big thing. We need to stabilise the club, and hopefully, you never know, by the time the window shuts, we'll have signed 5-6 more players. But right now, you're talking to me, and we've sold our best player. We've lost so many great players, and we've got a defence. We've got a stable defence. We've got a half-decent goalkeeper. But in front of that, I don't know.
Do you know what?
What do I talk about?
I was gonna try and lift the mood, but the next part of the show is the bottom three predictions. So.
You just put yourself bottom.
I think he's made the bottom. I know you guys don't like doing who's going to get relegated, but could you, if you had to predict, educated guess on who you think is going to go down. I mean, judging by that,
Sheffield United. I would say Luton.
I would.
I think Wolves could have a problem.
Yeah, they seem to be disarray.
I think Wolves will have a new manager in September. I think the manager will walk out. They've sold players. It looks like they've got FFP issues, and they're not going to be able to bring anyone in. And I think he's a top manager, and I think he'll be thinking, I might ruin my reputation here in terms of being dragged into a relegation zone. I think the job he did last season, you could have put him up for manager of the season. What he did when he come in. Wolves were bottom of the league when he came in. Don't forget. But you think of the players they've lost. Jimenez has gone to Fulham. Neves has gone to Sarri. Has Matinho moved on as well?
Yeah,
and they've sold the centre back.
Collins gone as well.
Where did Collins go?
Brentford.
He's gone to Brentford, and they're not bringing players in. And I think there'll be a massive disconnect behind the scenes. I think the manager will look to go, and I think Wolves could go down.
I think their ownership are connected to the right agents, and I think they'll get players on loan.
Well, they can't buy anyone with the money.
No, on loan. They get the right players on loan. Yeah, so I think what will happen is they'll get the right players on loan at the end of the window somehow. I think I'll add to Luton and Sheffield United. I'll go Bournemouth.
Interesting. Guys, that's all we got time for. Big round of applause. Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville. Some bold opinions. And some... I'm glad we got something out of Rory Jennings to go viral, no doubt. We'll see it on social media soon. Thank you very much. This has been the Overlap Live Fan Debate.
And Love Island.